All right, so welcome to the deep dive.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to be diving into the world of foreclosure and auction investing.
Okay.
And you've expressed that this is something that you're interested in and want to learn more about.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover everything from the foreclosure process itself
Yeah.
to navigating the ins and outs of different types of auctions.
Good.
And then also even get into some more specialized areas like tax lien investing and probate investing.
Right.
Our goal is to really give you a solid understanding of how these processes work,
Okay.
what opportunities they present, but also, what are the risks involved.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started, I just want to mention we've got a great document here called RE6 Foreclosure and Options Investing that we're going to be using as a guide,
Right.
plus some additional insights to really make this a valuable deep dive for you.
Okay.
All right, so imagine this. You're driving down the street and you see a house with a big foreclosure sign on the lawn.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered how those properties end up at auction?
And more importantly, how someone like you can actually buy them and potentially make money.
Right.
It can seem like a bit of a secret society, but the truth is, it's a structured process anyone can learn.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So there's no secret handshake or anything?
No secret handshake, no.
Okay, good to know.
It's all out there.
So what are some of the key things someone needs to know to get started in this world of foreclosure and auction investing?
Well, like any investment, the key is understanding the steps involved and doing your homework.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned the RE6 Foreclosure and Options Investing document.
Yeah.
That outlines 15 distinct steps.
Wow, 15.
From education and financing to finding those hidden gems and doing your due diligence.
Okay.
It's a journey, but it can be a rewarding one.
15 steps, though. That sounds a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be.
Are there any particular steps, though, that you've seen, like, trip up new investors, ones that they really need to pay extra attention to?
Definitely.
Like, where do people make mistakes? The two that I would highlight are financing and due diligence.
Okay.
You need to know exactly how you're going to pay for the property before you bid at an auction.
Yeah.
Getting caught up in the excitement and winning a bid only to realize you can't secure financing is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a big problem.
Yeah.
And what about due diligence? Why is that step so crucial in this type of investing?
Well, foreclosure properties, especially those sold at auction, often come with unknowns.
Right.
Maybe there are hidden repairs, title issues, or even squatters.
Oh, wow.
Thorough due diligence protects you from those nasty surprises.
Yeah.
And it helps you determine if the property is actually a good deal.
Okay, so it's not just about finding a low price. It's about understanding the true cost
Heck yeah.
and the potential risks involved.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's back up a bit and talk about the foreclosure process itself.
Oh,
What actually leads to a property ending up at auction? It's not like one missed mortgage payment and boom, it's up for grabs, right?
definitely not. It's actually a fairly lengthy legal process that begins, unfortunately, when someone falls behind on their mortgage payments. This initial phase is called pre-foreclosure,
Right.
and the lender will typically try to work with the homeowner to find a solution.
Okay.
They might explore loan modifications, temporary forbearance, or even short sales.
So it's not like lenders are just waiting to swoop in and take people's homes.
No, not at all. Foreclosure is actually a last resort for lenders.
Okay.
It's costly and time-consuming for them as well.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from the lender's perspective before. But
Right.
what happens if those efforts to work with the homeowner, like they just fail?
Well, if those options don't work out, the lender will officially file for foreclosure with the courts.
All right.
At that point, it becomes a legal matter.
Right.
The borrower receives a notice of default and has a chance to respond, maybe try to negotiate a solution, or even contest the foreclosure in court.
Okay.
But if none of that works, that's when the property is scheduled for auction.
Okay, so that's when the auction comes into play. Auctions, that's where things get exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I've always imagined them being like these high-energy events with people yelling out bids and a gavel slamming down to seal the deal. Is
Yeah.
that what they're really like?
Some live auctions can definitely have that dramatic, fast-paced feel.
Okay.
But the reality is, auctions can be conducted in different ways.
Okay.
Besides live auctions, there are also online auctions
Mm-hmm.
and even sealed bid auctions.
Wow.
So it's not just that one, stereotypical image.
So someone who's not comfortable with that in-person bidding frenzy could still participate.
Exactly.
That's good to know. And what kinds of properties can you actually find at these auctions? Is it just foreclosed homes, or is there a wider variety?
Oh, you can find all sorts of properties.
Okay.
Residential homes, of course,
Yeah.
but also commercial buildings, vacant land, even those fixer-upper properties that need a little TLC.
Nice, nice. So something for everyone.
Exactly.
You mentioned courthouse real estate deals earlier. Do those refer to a specific type of auction or?
Those often refer to foreclosure auctions and tax sales that are held at the county courthouse.
Okay.
It's a chance to potentially get a property below market value, but there's a catch.
I bet it involves a lot of research, right? Making sure there aren't any hidden issues with the property.
Exactly.
Like, it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Right. You need to research the title to ensure it's clear, and you want to inspect the property if possible.
Okay.
Or at least get as much information as you can about its condition.
Okay.
And you need to be aware of any potential legal issues like outstanding liens or code violations.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as showing up and bidding on the cheapest property you can find.
Okay, so let's say you've done your research, you found a property that seems promising, and you're ready to participate in an auction. I've heard of this interesting concept called a multi-round auction. What's that all about? It sounds a bit more strategic than a typical auction.
It is.
What makes it so different?
Multi-round auctions are like a dance between buyers and sellers,
Okay.
with multiple rounds of bidding to find the true market value.
Oh, interesting.
It starts with pre-auction preparation, where you gather all the information about the properties being offered.
Right.
Then, round one kicks off, and everyone submits their initial bids.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting. Only qualified buyers move on to the next round.
Oh, so there's a vetting process.
Exactly. The auction organizer checks the bidder's financial qualifications and the seriousness of their bids.
Oh, okay, so they weed out the non-serious bidders.
Exactly.
That's smart.
Then round two, and maybe even more rounds after that, happen with shorter durations.
Okay.
This really pushes buyers to put their best offer forward.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I can see how that would work.
Yeah.
So what happens at the very end of this whole multi-round process?
The highest bidder, who meets all the requirements, wins the property.
Okay.
And then it's on to the typical contract and closing process.
So it's not like you just, win the bid and you automatically get the keys.
Right.
There are still a lot of the standard real estate procedures involved.
Yeah, you still have due diligence, inspections, making sure everything's in order.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about tax lien investing.
Okay.
This one always sounds a bit mysterious to me. Is it really like buying someone's debt?
Well, in a way, yes.
Okay.
It might sound a bit intimidating at first.
Yeah, a little bit.
But let me break it down for you.
Okay.
When someone doesn't pay their property taxes, the local government can place a lien on that property.
Okay.
This lien is essentially a legal claim saying, hey, you owe us money.
Right.
And these liens can actually be sold to investors.
Wow. So you're basically stepping into the shoes of the tax collector.
In a way, yes.
But what's in it for the investor? Why would anyone want to buy someone else's tax debt?
That's where the potential for profit comes in.
Okay.
Tax lien investing can offer high returns, often much higher than traditional investments.
Interesting.
And the best part, your investment is backed by real estate.
Yeah.
It's not some abstract financial instrument.
That's a key point.
You're dealing with tangible property.
Right. You can actually, see it, touch it. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's that security aspect.
Right.
But before we get into the details of how tax lien investing works,
Okay.
can you explain what a tax lien actually is? What's its purpose?
A tax lien is basically a legal tool
Okay.
that governments use to collect unpaid property taxes.
Okay.
Think of it as a way to secure their claim on the property until the debt is settled.
Right. So it's not like the government immediately seizes the property if someone misses a tax payment.
Exactly.
There's a process involved.
Right.
Okay.
The property owner gets plenty of notices and warnings before a lien is actually imposed.
Okay.
And once it is, it's publicly recorded, usually at the county level.
Okay.
This makes it very transparent and ensures that anyone interested in the property, including potential buyers or investors, knows about the outstanding debt.
Right. So transparency is key.
Absolutely.
But what happens if the property owner still doesn't pay up, even after the lien is placed? Does the government eventually take ownership of the property?
In some cases, yes.
Okay.
If the debt remains unpaid, the taxing authority might hold a tax lien sale or auction.
All right.
This is where investors like you come in.
Okay.
You can bid on these liens, and if you win, you essentially become the new holder of that debt.
Okay. So you step into the shoes of the taxing authority
Right.
with the right to collect that debt.
Correct.
That's fascinating. And if the original owner still doesn't pay, the investor could potentially end up owning the property.
Exactly. It's a bit of a gamble, of course, but with the potential for a significant payoff.
Okay.
But there's another twist to this whole tax lien story.
Okay, there's more.
Sometimes, instead of just selling the lien, the taxing authority might auction off the entire property through what's called a tax deed sale.
Okay, so now we have tax liens and tax deeds.
Right.
I'm starting to see why people get so intrigued by this world of real estate investing.
Yeah.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion, with each layer revealing new possibilities.
Exactly.
But before we dive deeper into tax deed sales,
Okay.
I think it's time for a quick recap.
That was good.
We've covered a lot of ground already,
Yeah, we have.
and I want to make sure our listener is following along.
Absolutely. Okay.
We started by talking about, that image of the foreclosure sign on the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went through that whole pre-foreclosure process,
Right.
how lenders actually try to work with homeowners to avoid foreclosure.
Absolutely.
If that fails, though, the property ends up at auction.
Correct.
And we talked about the different types of auctions, live, online, sealed bid.
Yeah.
And then we started to dig into this whole world of tax lien investing, where you're essentially buying someone's tax debt
That's a good way to put it.
with the potential to maybe even acquire the property down the road.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy.
And we just touched on the concept of tax deed sales,
Mm-hmm.
where you're actually bidding on the property itself rather than just the leach.
Exactly.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and we'll dig into those details in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
I'll be here.
Yeah. A lot of different ways to potentially get involved in real estate.
And we're just getting started, right?
Exactly.
We ended on this kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah, we did.
Talking about tax deed sales.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dig into that a little bit more.
Okay.
You mentioned that instead of just selling the leads, sometimes the taxing authority will just go ahead and auction off the entire property.
Right.
So for someone who's maybe new to all this, what's the difference between buying a tax lien and buying a property at a tax deed sale?
Well, with a tax lien, you're buying the right to collect that unpaid debt.
If the original owner doesn't pay up, you could potentially foreclose and take ownership of the property.
Right.
But with a tax deed sale, you're directly bidding on the property itself.
So it's a more direct route to ownership.
It is.
That sounds appealing, but I'm guessing there's a catch.
Well, the catch, or I guess I'd call it the challenge, is understanding the true value of the property.
Okay.
You see, tax deed sales often attract investors looking for those steal of a deal properties,
Mm-hmm.
the ones being sold way below market value.
Right.
But the reality is the actual value can fluctuate wildly depending on several factors.
So it's not as simple as assuming every property at a tax deed sale is a guaranteed bargain.
It's not. No.
What are some of those factors that can impact the value then?
The property's condition is a big one.
Okay.
Is it move-in ready or does it need a complete overhaul?
Right.
Location, as always in real estate, is key.
Yeah, location, location, location.
Exactly.
Makes a big difference.
And then there's the overall market climate. Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market?
Yeah.
All these things play a role.
And let's not forget those pesky liens and encumbrances we talked about earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
Those can really impact the value.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, you need to make sure you understand any outstanding debts or legal claims against the property
Okay.
before you even consider bidding.
And one more thing I was thinking about, too, is competition, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
If you have a really desirable property, a lot of people might be interested in it.
Absolutely.
And that can drive the price up.
It can turn into a bidding war. Yeah,
So it sounds like tax deed auctions are a bit like treasure hunting.
I like that.
You might find something amazing, but you need to be prepared. Do your research and be ready to compete.
You got it.
Okay, so before we move on, I want to touch on one more area that has always intrigued me.
Okay.
Probate investing.
All right.
It sounds a bit, sensitive, dealing with properties from estates.
Yeah, I understand.
Can you explain what probate investing actually entails?
Sure. Probate investing involves purchasing properties that are part of a deceased person's estate.
Okay.
When someone passes away, their assets, including real estate, go through this legal process called probate to determine how those assets are distributed.
Okay, so it's all about navigating that legal process and potentially finding investment opportunities within it.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
That sounds complex.
It can be, yes.
What are some of the key things an investor needs to know about probate?
Well, first and foremost, you need to understand that probate laws can vary from state to state.
Right.
So doing your homework on the specific regulations in your area is crucial.
Okay, so that's step one.
Definitely. And then it's about identifying probate properties that might be good investment opportunities.
And how do you even find those properties? Is there some sort of probate property listing service?
There isn't one centralized service. No.
Okay.
You can find probate properties through various channels.
Like what?
Sometimes they're listed with real estate agents, or you might come across them at courthouse auctions.
Okay.
Networking with attorneys, estate planners, and other professionals in the field can also be a valuable way to uncover potential leads.
So it's a bit more of a niche area,
It is.
requiring some specialized knowledge and connections.
It does.
And I'm guessing negotiating with heirs can be tricky, right?
It can be, yes.
Emotions are likely running high, and it's just a delicate situation.
You're absolutely right. Sensitivity and respect are crucial in probate investing.
Yeah.
You're dealing with families who are going through a difficult time.
Right.
And it's important to approach these transactions with empathy and understanding.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about the numbers.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the human element involved.
Absolutely.
Are there any other potential challenges unique to probate investing?
Yes, probate can sometimes be a lengthy process with potential delays and legal hurdles.
Okay.
It's not for investors looking for a quick turnaround.
Right, so patience is key.
Definitely.
Anything else?
You might have to deal with multiple heirs, each with their own opinions and priorities, which can complicate negotiations.
Okay, so patience and strong communication skills.
Exactly.
Right, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about something a bit more straightforward.
Okay.
Quitclaim deeds.
All right.
These sound like a unique way to transfer property ownership,
Yeah.
but I've always been a bit unsure about how they actually work.
Sure. A quitclaim deed is essentially a document that transfers whatever interest the grantor has in a property to the grantee.
Okay.
The key thing to remember is that it doesn't make any guarantees about the title.
So no promises about whether the title is actually clear.
Right.
That sounds risky.
It can be, yeah. That's why quitclaim deeds are often used for simple transfers within families,
Okay.
like adding a spouse's name to a deed or gifting property to a child. In those situations, the parties involved typically trust each other and aren't as concerned about potential title defects.
So for a typical real estate purchase where you're dealing with strangers and want that peace of mind, a warranty deed is the safer option.
Exactly.
Okay.
A warranty deed provides certain guarantees about the title, protecting the buyer from any unknown claims or encumbrances.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So quitclaim deeds are all about speed and simplicity,
Mm-hmm.
but they come with a certain level of risk.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's swing back to the world of auctions.
Okay.
But this time, we'll focus on a specific type of property, REOs.
Right.
Can you explain what REOs are and why they're often sold at auction?
Sure. REOs, which stands for real estate owned,
Okay.
are properties that have been foreclosed on and are now owned by the bank.
Okay.
Banks aren't in the business of holding on to properties.
Right.
So they often sell REOs at auction to get them off their books and recoup their losses.
So it's another opportunity for investors to potentially find good deals?
It is.
But I imagine buying a bank-owned home at auction has its own set of unique considerations, right? Like, what are some of the things that someone needs to keep in mind?
The first thing I'd emphasize is the importance of research.
Okay.
Find out when and where these auctions are happening, which auction companies are involved, and get familiar with their specific procedures.
So don't just show up on auction day unprepared hoping to snag a deal.
Not if you want to be successful.
Okay.
Preparation is key.
Right.
And that includes having your finances in order.
Okay.
Most auctions require payment in full on the day of the sale.
Wow.
So you need to have the cash ready or a cashier's check for the amount you're willing to spend.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Getting caught up in the bidding frenzy only to realize you can't actually afford the property would be a nightmare.
It would, definitely.
Okay, so you've done your research, you've got your finances sorted out. What's the next crucial step?
You absolutely have to inspect the property, or at least get as much information as you can about its condition.
Okay.
REOs can be in varying states of repair,
Right.
and some might need a lot of work.
Okay.
A professional inspection is highly recommended to uncover any hidden problems.
I can imagine that some bank-owned properties have been sitting vacant for a while,
Often, yes.
which can lead to all sorts of maintenance issues.
Yeah, you never know what you might find.
So an inspection is a must-do,
I'd say so.
even if it costs a bit of money up front.
It's worth it.
What about the title search? Is that something you need to worry about when buying an REO at auction?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Make sure you have a clear understanding of any liens or encumbrances on the property.
Right.
A title company or real estate attorney can help you with this crucial step.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to end up with a property that has a bunch of hidden legal issues attached to it.
No, that would be bad.
No, it would.
Okay, so you've done your research, you've inspected the property, the title is clear, you're finally ready for auction day.
All right, let's do it.
What advice do you have for someone who's never bid at an auction before? It can seem intimidating.
It can be, yeah. But the most important thing is to set a budget and stick to it, no matter what.
Okay.
Don't get caught up in the excitement of the auction and overbid.
Right.
Remember, you're there to make a smart investment, not get swept away by the emotions of the moment.
Right. It's like those bidding wars online. Things can get out of hand quickly.
They can, yes.
So set a limit and just walk away if the bidding goes beyond your comfort zone.
That's right.
What about bidding strategies? Any tips for a first-time auction bidder?
Well, every auction is different.
Okay.
But I generally recommend starting with a lower bid than your maximum
Okay.
and seeing how the bidding goes.
Right.
You can always increase your bid as needed.
So start slow and steady.
Exactly.
Feel out the competition, and then make your move when the time is right.
That's a good strategy.
And I imagine it's important to bid confidently, but also responsibly.
Exactly. Project an air of confidence.
Yeah.
But always remember your predetermined maximum.
Right.
You don't want to end up with buyer's remorse.
No, you don't.
No.
And what happens if you win the bid? Is it like instant ownership, or are there still steps involved?
Congratulations are in order if you win.
Thanks.
You'll typically need to provide a substantial deposit immediately
Okay.
and then work with the auctioneer and title company to finalize the closing process.
All right.
This usually involves things like final property inspection, securing financing if needed, and signing all the necessary paperwork.
So winning the bid is just the beginning of the journey.
It is.
There's still work to be done to actually acquire the property.
Yes, there is.
Now, what about after you've successfully closed on the property? What are the next steps?
That's where your investment strategy comes into play.
Okay.
Do you want to renovate and resell the property for a profit?
Okay.
Hold on to it as a rental property for long-term cash flow, or maybe do something completely different.
Okay.
You'll need to assess the property's condition, make any necessary repairs, and then decide on your exit strategy.
So buying a bank-owned home at auction is not just a one-time transaction.
It's not.
It's the beginning of a whole new adventure.
I like that way of putting it.
It sounds like a lot to handle, but with careful planning and a solid understanding of the process, it can be a lucrative investment.
It can be, yes.
What are some of the key takeaways you'd like our listener to remember about buying REOs at auction?
I think the most important thing is to approach it with a clear understanding of both the opportunities and the risks involved.
Okay.
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right.
It requires diligence, research, and a willingness to put in the work.
Okay.
But with the right approach, it can be a very rewarding way to build wealth through real estate.
All right, so we've covered so much ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From the intricacies of the foreclosure process to the ins and outs of auctions.
Right.
And the unique considerations of tax liens, tax deeds, probate investing,
Absolutely.
even quitclaim deeds.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
What are some of the overarching lessons you'd like our listener to take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for anyone interested in foreclosure and auction investing is that it's not about jumping in blindly.
Right.
It's about educating yourself on the processes, the laws in your specific area.
Okay.
And as we've emphasized throughout this deep dive, understanding the potential risks.
Good.
Yeah, it really is a lot.
It's like drinking from a fire hose almost.
It is.
But it's exciting, right? There's so many possibilities.
They're all.
You know, we talked about, starting with that foreclosure sign and then the intricacies of tax liens, the, kind of the delicate dance of probate.
Yeah.
It's amazing all the different ways that you can invest in real estate.
It's true. And each path comes with its own set of challenges and rewards.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the biggest takeaway for anyone interested in foreclosure and auction investing is that it's not about jumping in blindly. It's about educating yourself on the processes, the laws in your specific area.
Okay.
And as we've emphasized throughout this deep dive, understanding the potential risks.
Absolutely. It's not one of those get-rich-quick things that you see advertised all the time.
It's not a magic bullet.
Yeah, it's about building a solid foundation of knowledge developing a strategic approach, and then taking calculated risks.
Exactly.
Not just, throwing money at something and hoping for the best.
Right.
So speaking of, doing things the right way, one of the most important pieces of that is due diligence, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like we've mentioned that several times throughout our conversation.
Yeah, it can't be overstated.
But it's because it's that important.
It is.
Right.
Yeah, whether you're bidding at an auction, exploring tax liens, or navigating the complexities of probate, thorough due diligence is essential.
It's all about protecting yourself, right? From those hidden problems that could turn a good deal into a disaster.
Exactly.
Things like, hidden repairs, title problems, unexpected legal claims.
Yeah.
They can really derail your investment plans.
They can, absolutely.
Beyond those, kind of the legal and financial due diligence, there's also the kind of personal due diligence.
That's right.
Right. Thinking about your own goals, risk tolerance, available resources.
Yeah, you have to think about what's right for you.
Exactly.
It's not just about whether a particular strategy is, quote, good or bad.
Right.
It's about whether it aligns with your individual circumstances and investment style.
Yeah, some people might thrive in that fast-paced auction environment, while others might prefer, the slower,
the
research-intensive tax lien investing approach.
Exactly.
So, we talked about knowledge, due diligence, aligning your investment choices with your personal goals, risk tolerance, any other parting wisdom you want to share?
Yes, I think it's important to remember that real estate investing, especially in these niche areas, is a journey. It's not something you master overnight.
Right.
There will be challenges, setbacks, and maybe even a few sleepless nights.
That's hard to imagine.
But if you're persistent, willing to learn, and adapt along the way, it can be an incredibly rewarding path.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
We've talked a lot about the mechanics of these different investing strategies. But, at the end of the day, we can't forget the human element involved, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Behind every foreclosure, every tax lien, every probate property, there's a story.
There is.
There are people whose lives have been impacted by these situations.
Right.
Sometimes through no fault of their own.
That's right.
And as investors, it's crucial to approach these transactions with empathy, sensitivity.
Yeah.
It's not just about making a profit.
Right.
It's about understanding the impact these situations have on real people's lives.
Well said.
So, as you continue to explore foreclosure and auction investing, I encourage you to remember the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Think about the stories behind these properties.
Right.
Approach these transactions with, both profit and compassion in mind.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Between achieving your financial goals and recognizing the human impact of your investment decisions.
Well said, yeah.
Thank you.
So, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of foreclosure and auction investing.
That sounds good.
We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little inspiring.
I hope so.
And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to explore in future deep dives, don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely.
We love hearing from you.
We do.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, subscribe.
To the deep dive for more engaging explorations of fascinating topics.
We'll be here.
Until next time, happy investing.